Everybody please stand. Matt, will you lead us in the pledge?
Attention, salute, pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for living in this country, the freedoms that we have. Thank you for living in this state, this community. Thank you for the opportunity to work with the kids that we have and all the personnel, everybody that makes this system what it is. Thank you for their efforts. And I pray that as we come to the board meeting tonight, that we will make good decisions, wise decisions. We'll do what is in the best interest of our students. And we'll honor you in all that we say. I pray that you'll bless our time together. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
We'll come to order. First item is look over the agenda, gentlemen, and it makes your approval. Not anything said, I assume it does. You have a copy of the March 18th minutes. I'd entertain a motion we accept those. It makes your approval. Matt? I'll second. Mark, second. Any comments or questions? All in favor? It's unanimous. Okay, item 2, the financial statement and general fund reconciliation and bills and accounts. A, school financial statement, general fund, bank reconciliation. Had a chance to look at those. If they meet your approval, we entertain a motion for that.
I make a motion to accept those.
Second. Mr. Bellville. Any questions or comments? All in favor? It's unanimous. Okay, item B, bills and accounts. We have some that needs paid and taken care of. Have a motion for that?
Motion.
Mr. Bobo, thank you. Have a second? Second. Mark? Any comments or questions? All in favor? It's unanimous. Okay, visitors and special programs. First of all is we already have Mr. Sharp on the agenda. Is any other board member like to be placed on the agenda?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
All right, Mark, we'll put you down at E. Then Mr. Bobo. Then me. Okay, we'll have some visitors, Mr. Superintendent. You take care of those.
Would the Sylvania FCCLA come up?
Thank you guys for having us. I'm Mary Blankenship. I'm the Family and Consumer Sciences teacher at Sylvania High School and the FCCLA advisor. And many of you may not know what I'm talking about. It used to be about 15 years ago, home ec and FHA. Well, we have changed that a little bit. We have to work towards careers and college now because, as you know, you can't afford to stay home anymore. So we're still teaching those life skills, but we also have to get these students out in the world and learn how to get jobs. So for the first time in many, many years, FCCLA from DeKalb County has gone to the state convention and competed in star events. And we also have Lacey Hughes here. She competed for a state officer position and she won. So she's going to go to the National Leadership Conference in San Antonio, Texas to help plan those meetings. And we have Kayla Santiago and Hannah Weaver. They competed in the life event planning and they are going to compete at nationals. They got second place at state. So this is huge for DeKalb County. This hasn't happened in many years. So we're here to recognize these guys, and we're going to be having some car washes and things. We will put it in the paper so you can all come out and help us raise money to get these ladies to Texas. And Lacey's going to tell you just a little bit about her responsibilities now that she's a state officer.
Well, I don't really know what office I'll get. I have interviews May 30th to find out what officer position I will have. but I will plan most of the programs for the National Leadership Conference and the state conference as well. And I'll get to travel all over Alabama teaching kids that are kind of like us in DeKalb County who don't really get to do much for FCCLA about what our organization is and how they can get out of their county and start moving on to nationals and state level doing stuff that I've gotten to do for at least 2 years now. So I'm very excited about it. I know I'm the first one from Sylvania to ever become a state officer, and probably from DeKalb County. I don't know how long, I don't know if we had an FHA state officer, but it's a very big honor for me, and I'm very proud of these two ladies as well, because this was our first year competing, and for them to get second place and be a freshman and
You're sophomore, right?
yeah, sophomore competing against almost all seniors and get second place out of that, I'm very proud of these two ladies.
You and Matt.
If there are any FACS teachers out there that would like Lacey to come talk to your FCCLA, she will be happy to do that next year. You just let us know.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Move up a little bit. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Good job. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, our Career Tech Welding Program would come forward. It's Mr. Jim Higley.
This is 5 of my students that I carried to Sequoia High School in Pasadena Daisy, Tennessee, back in February. It was an AWS, which is American Welding Society competition, but they earned certifications. Our industries around are big, and our high schools and the state's big on credentialing. So this is a credential that they can carry with them to the workplace. Tyler Cloud from Hyder, he took a pipe test and passed that test. It's called a 6G certification. And out there in the industry, that's how they're going to test you on your pipe work. He done a good job, and that's a credential he'll carry with him. He got, we have a OSHA 10 program. It's a safety program that they've earned. We're into NCCR. They've got those credentials. So our kids are being prepared to go to the workforce or go to the next level on the Northeast or Gaston or Tyler earned a full ride scholarship to Tulsa Welding School in Jacksonville, Florida. Jacob Wilkes is not present. Also tested with us, took a pipe test. He's earned a scholarship to Gaston State, full ride scholarship to Gaston State. So through their efforts and hard work, they're preparing themselves. They've done a great job, and they brought some of their work to show these guys. So they've certainly made me proud.
Now, my son was in his class, that'll show how young he's getting, and he always enjoyed going to that class.
Wait a minute, go to the picture.
Road miles, so I appreciate him.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Let's get one more. 1, 2, 3. Very good. Thank you.
Good job. Yep, thank you.
At this time, is Crimson Long here? Okay. Crimson Long.
Okay, Mr. Sharp?
One of the things I wanted to talk about was I think we got it worked out with the city of Rhinesville. I talked to a couple of the council members yesterday. I think they had a meeting last night. Is this lease purchase we had, the board had with the Rhinesville Home Coliseum. I believe that it was done about 2001. Is that correct? I think a couple of y'all guys might have been on there then. But I think we've got it worked out that it's not going to cost the board another payment. I don't believe that the board owed another payment. Mr. Cooper, would you kind of explain a little bit about on the central office what we talked about?
As far as the office building?
Correct.
The Board of Education moved from Fort Payne to Rainsville in June of 2000. And at that time, the city of Rainsville was promoting for us to be out here and was gracious enough to give us the building for $1 a year. As everybody knows, rent-free pretty much. And would pay the building insurance on the building, as long as we maintain the building and upkeep and the contents. And we've always had that agreement, and there've never been any problems with that.
Correct. And one of the things that we were a little bit concerned about was with the recent issues with the city and the mayor was regarding that building and there not being really an agreement on that building as far as the city owns that building. And the county commission put about $300,000 in that renovation of that building. And so we want to make sure if we had this agreement, I think, and David probably knows a little bit more about it than I would on what the city did last night. But as I understand it, they did pass a resolution that the board does not owe anything else on the Coliseum. And I think that if you read through the agreement, it's very ambiguous. But it basically states that the payments would follow the mortgage that was due to USDA. And as I understand that completed in December 2010 was the final payment.
The intent of the contract was that the board would make payments until it was paid in full, and then they would have the option to purchase the building. And we feel like we've got a second opinion from a contract specialist, and the majority of the city council feels like that everything the board was required to do has been done.
And I talked to Mr. Land, the superintendent who was there at the time, and he told me that the city of Rhinesville came to him and basically stated that if they would ask the board basically to take over payments for the Coliseum. Whether that was a good idea or bad idea, that was the decision was made. And since the last payment has been made 3.5 years ago, something like that.
It was made December 2010.
December 2010. So anyway, I'm hoping that issue is going to resolve itself. But what I thought we would do before we actually entered into the agreement that Rhinesville wants to enter into, that we tie in the material center because there is no agreement there. And like I said, the county has put a substantial amount of money in that. And
The office.
The office, the central office. Yeah. So just want to bring that to your attention.
The two's not tied together.
They're not tied together, but I would like to get the material center. If we're going to do this other agreement with Rhinesville, I'd like to add that into it, just for discussion purposes.
We do. Is the insurance, is the insurance changed over into the boards?
As soon as we have legal ownership of the Coliseum, we will start picking up the building insurance.
On the Coliseum.
Well, this has got to be, this will come along with the agreement when this is.
When the deed's transferred over.
Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Now, the proposal with the city on the central office is that they will maintain insurance, is that correct?
I think that's correct, and that we would do the general maintenance of the
Yes.
building. But right now, the city of Rainsville's paying the insurance, the liability insurance on the Coliseum, is that correct?
That's correct.
So, I guess we're okay with that.
Sure.
As long as they want to pay it.
We may not be in a big hurry.
One comment I had on that, don't mean to speak for all the board members, but I think I can make this statement. It would not be this board's intent to ever not pay any obligation that we owe.
Correct.
Our position in this point is we have paid all our obligation if we don't owe anything. So that's why, not really sure how all this came up to start with, but that's our position on it.
We've got a voucher that says it's paid in full, is that correct?
Yes. Was that a question at one time that we had?
Been a question for the last 3 years.
I thought that issue had been settled way back then.
Well, title's never been transferred.
Yeah, I know that.
But maybe it's settled now.
Yeah.
Maybe it's settled.
We're okay with the point to that.
Anything else on the Coliseum? All right, thank you. Mark?
Okay. We'll talk about the Coach Thrash thing a little bit. I know, Mr. Taylor, you're stressed out about it, your family is, and I'm stressed. Coach Thrash's family's stressed. I feel like I've talked to about everybody in DeKalb County over the course of 4 or 5 weeks. But I feel an obligation to ask Mr. Taylor the questions. I'm going to ask you 3 questions. You can answer them in the order you want to, but any board member after this can comment if they want to. But one is Coach Thrash still the coach? 2, are you going to make a recommendation for the board to vote on? And 3, do you have the power to relieve Coach Thrash's duty on your own?
I'm going to attempt to be very careful in the day of liability. I'm going to answer these the best I can. The first question that you asked is about whether or not Coach Thrash is still the coach. I delivered a letter on April the 4th that relieved him of all coaching duties, and that letter still stands at this time. The recommendation as to what it has to come before the board, there's a few things, there's some issues there that I want to explain. There's probably been misinformation out in the general public. You know, we have policies and procedures and things that we have that help us make these decisions sometimes when they're tough decisions. You know, the duties of being a coach is not a board issue. Those are assigned by the principal, and those types of things are annual. The board only votes for supplements, of approving the supplements for those folks. I've got a few things here that I want to read. This comes out of our policy book, and I've got the numbers here if you want to look them up. But under our policy, under compensation guides and contracts, it says the Board of Education, at its discretion, may approve salary supplements. That's not coaching positions. It says to certain instructional personnel who assume special duties, for example, coaches, band directors, and cheerleaders and sponsors. With that being said, the authority to give a coach duties lies within the principal and as well as the superintendent. And under the interscholastic athletics in our policy, it says the local school principal, in cooperation with the superintendent, coordinate and control all aspects of the athletic programs at the school. So those things give us the principal and the superintendent the authority and discretion to make good, sound judgment as to what's best for the students at the school. The only thing that would require board vote would be that we approve supplements and that we would approve resignations that would stop coaching supplements. So to tell you that, under Section 9 of the Student First Act, Alabama Code Section 16-24C-9, states that nothing in the Student First Act prohibits the superintendent from making a reasonable and customary decision not expressly provided for in the Students First Act or otherwise in the exercise of sound administration discretion. So, to tell you this, in November there's some allegations, there was an investigation, and I have relieved Coach Thrash of his duties as of right now, April 4th. He tendered a resignation and rescinded that, and at this time in his personnel file stands a letter relieving him of all of his coaching duties at Fife High School. At this time, the case is still open. There could be an incident report filed pending allegations, and I can't get into the details of that because of liability. But in compliance of Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, we can't discuss things that are happening with the students. So in compliance with that and trying to save the privacy and protect the kids and of course Coach Fass and his family and his career, to not tarnish his image, I don't feel like it's in the best interest to discuss the allegations here in public. I believe it's in the best interest of the school and the students that we relieve him of his duties, and we're going to do our best to provide the best education possible for our students and hold our students and our employees to high standards.
So you have no plans of making any kind of recommendation to them?
No, sir. I've met with Mr. Bryant, and he needs to find him a basketball coach.
Okay, Mr. Bobo?
I got a question on that. Was the principal study, was he in on all the investigation of this?
He was in on the first two meetings. Supervisor was with me every time, including the interviews of the players.
Okay, anything else?
The only question I have is, we didn't get a copy of any kind of a letter. I didn't know that Mr. Taylor, I didn't realize that you would actually give him a letter stating that he had basically dismissed him from those duties. I knew that he had resigned, and you talked to me about that he had resigned, but I didn't know that you would actually send him a letter stating that he
Yes, he was promised to leave that on April 1st.
At some point in time, are we going to get to hear this information? Because we got to vote one way or another.
When the investigation is closed.
What are we voting on? What would we be voting on? No recommendation.
Okay, that it? Okay, now it's my turn.
I was talking about.
That was just a question.
Oh, okay.
I got just a couple of questions. I guess these are probably, the first one would probably be to Anthony. And I can't remember, when we had E-rate money, Anthony, did that, am I mistaken, did that go for telephone situation calls, or how did, is that done away with, or where is E-rate money going, is what I'm asking.
E-rate money at this time is going, we have our internet that we have a contract with Alabama Supercomputer has an annual payment system-wide of about $580,000. That's the bill. So our E-rate pays Alabama Supercomputer directly. The percentage can change due to your economic levels of your students. They base it on free and reduced and a few other statistics. Right now, it's roughly at 80%. So E-rate helps us out by paying roughly $470,000 of that $580,000. That's real close. So we're short another $100 and something thousand for that. Now we also get E-rate money off phones. That money comes directly to us. But we turn around and use that E-rate money to pay the remaining balance on the internet purchase. So yes, when we first got E-rate money, the internet nationwide was just getting off the ground, and we didn't have that much cost. It wasn't that fast, it wasn't that efficient. Y'all remember that?
Yeah.
The bill wasn't $580,000. Plus, we didn't have an employee at the central office that half of their salary comes from and funded from E-rate, because as everything else, as USAC, which is over E-rate, started a lot of red tape. You know, there's a lot of quarterly reports, annual reports. You know, we have to send not just the front page of each phone bill to the government. If it's a 25-pager, we send all 25. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So with all that, used to, when we first started out, we tried to write a check to the schools, 5,000 here, 4,000 there. But as of now, you know, we don't write those checks to the schools, but they are benefiting from E-rate because all the schools has internet. So we are paying that internet bill for them through E-rate. Is that kind of a good enough overview?
Okay. My second question, Mr. Tyler, I've had a lot of calls on the, and I'm sure it's been discussed at a considerable amount of time. I've had a lot of calls on the schedule, on the 2 periods, 2 blocks, 2 periods. Has that been discussed, or I didn't receive any information on it? I didn't know where it originated or why.
Setting the schedule during the school day is not a board action, doesn't require board action. If you look in the policy and procedure manual, it talks about setting the start time and end time of the days and approving the calendar. What actually happens between 8 and 3 is a procedure. And those things are left to the superintendent and principal to coordinate together. So it doesn't require board action.
Well, the only thing I would say is that I know the last 4 times this has happened, the board has voted on it.
Right.
And we went back and forth between block and period. This would be the 5th change we've made. I would like to see some debate about that. Why are we making this change?
Well, that's what I've been looking at is the data. Our English and math scores are not very good in the county, especially the end of course assessments, which is our ACT score predictors. And we are averaging about 13 and 14 when the state or national average is 18 and 20. So our English and math scores, we're not getting English and math in some schools. For instance, a student may have math the first semester of 7th grade and may not get it again until the second semester of 8th grade. And I'm just of the opinion that if you put your tools in the toolbox and don't get them out and use them for 365 days, they're not going to stay very sharp. They're going to get rusty. So I tried to come up with a flexible schedule, and we looked at several options. And being able to provide a schedule that would have periods and blocks would leave us some flexibility. With the schedule that we've come up with, it still allows for our kids to get 8 credits every year. And it allows for early graduation. It has created some extra work for the principals and some of the counselors to have to plug in some students. But within between a Friday and a Monday, to let you know, and I applaud Plainview, it took them 48 hours to get a schedule turned back in according to the stipulations we gave them. I think it's just going to require some extra work at the local school to get the kids plugged in to where they need. And we've actually gave flexibility for those students that still need 4 blocks for the seniors to graduate early. We've got the flexibility of the local school to be able to combine those periods to create blocks to give them flexibility to still have early graduation for seniors this year.
So do we think that, I guess my question is, you know, we're going to this, I guess it's called the modified block schedule. And is there a reason that we think this is going to be better?
There is. Actually, what I've been looking at from the state, actually had Cindy Smith pull up some information. I had intended on going to a 7-period day, looking over data for the last 2 years. The top 7 out of the top 10, 7 of the top 10 performing schools in the state of Alabama on a 7-period day. The other 3 were on modified blocks. And in the top 10 in reading in the state of Alabama, 8 of those 10 were on 7-period days. So looking at what works best according to data here locally in our state, I just felt like periods was what we needed to go to. And because of concerns over early graduation, periods was going to cut out early graduation and some flexibility to be able to get credits and do some other things, we come up with a schedule with flexibility for them so to be able to meet everybody's needs. But the data was originally the reason why I started looking at wanting to make a change, because I felt like if you keep doing the same old thing, you're going to keep getting the same results. And I thought it was time to try something different.
Was it ever kicked around maybe to do a school, as a pilot school, before we just changed the whole?
No, it wasn't.
Who was involved in the decision? I mean, were the principals involved in deciding that we're using a modified block?
No, sir. Me and my assistant, Mr. Thomas.
Well, see, I have an issue with that, because we got principals who have hundreds of years of experience doing what they're doing, and we're going to tell them how best to do it when we don't have any experience in that area, and I think that's a problem. I'm going back to what Matt said. We approve the calendar, we approve the textbooks, we approve policies, procedures, we approve hiring and firing people. I'm not sure why we wouldn't approve, or what the exception would be, why we wouldn't approve the schedule. And I guess I have an issue with that.
It's a major change, I guess, is the.
And we've only been on the block for 3 years. And that really is not long enough I mean, we haven't even cycled a whole 9, 10, 11, 12 grade through that process yet to know what the results are going to be.
What would be your suggestion, looking at the data, that would be the best calendar for the students, Mr. Williams?
Well, I wouldn't, I'm not saying that the modified schedule is not appropriate, but I think more than 2 or 3 people need to be in on making a decision.
We put together a committee last year, and the committee chose periods, and then the principals asked to come in and say the prisoners were running the prison. And when the committee decides they don't want to be a part of the committee no more because the principals were overrunning their decision, then it was time for us to do it differently. So in an attempt to try to fix what happened last year, we sent out an email asking for the opinion. Did we not? A mass email out surveying our staff. So to tell you, they had plenty of opportunity to vote on what they thought was the best schedule, and they had an opportunity during that survey to actually make comments. And I printed off those that were pro and not pro, pros and cons of both. And I weighed them all out. We looked at some creative schedules. This one come up, and it looked like it provided everything that we needed to be able to still retain everything that we wanted, which was to be able to keep English and math all year long and still have those 8 credits and graduate early. So in looking at our data and having those 2 or 3 flexibilities was the major factors and decisions what we made.
I think for me that it's not that this is a bad idea. I think that, we talked about it. It sounded like a reasonable approach to it. I think for us, we don't have the data. We've not been provided with the data. We've not talked about this in a meeting, since you've been in here. We've not talked about this in a meeting, and then all of a sudden, here it is right before. I mean, y'all been working on it, but it's not been. You've not give us any feedback. It's like we're not part of the. It's not a team approach, and I think a team approach is a better approach. So it's going to be this dramatic of a change. That's what
I guess the reason I'm about I didn't know there'd been that much discussion on it, because nobody told me about it. And by being in the school business, we've been from period to block to period since I've been on the school board, and we had that same scenario while I was in school. There is. I know enough about it to know there's pros and cons to it. go completely block, you're gonna have more teachers. Looks like more teachers are gonna have to teach more classes than some, by being in a block issue. Over the years, only where the modified block, as far as I know, and I hadn't researched it lately, but the only place that the modified block used to work was when you had large schools, large population, basically, to take care of the lunch period. Now, that's what I always stood about the modified block. But I didn't know there'd been any discussion or who discussed it, or I just had some calls on it, and I know as a principal, it's gonna be harder to schedule. It would be for me, but evidently it's not. I just didn't know where it was at. I just had some calls on it, and I wanted to see what was going on.
Mr. Taylor, how many schools have completed this schedule?
Well, I text and have sent out some emails and talked to some principals. All of them, about 2, are busy working on it. One of the schools said they're just having a few minor glitches plugging some kids in. A couple of the schools typically wait until summer to do their schedules, and I've allowed them that if they need help to contact me as needed.
Did any of the principals, did you get much feedback from them about this?
No, sir. I've not had one principal contact me about a schedule.
Last question then, with this modified block, it's not going to cause us to have to hire any more teachers and pay them out of local money.
No, sir.
Okay.
Anything else, gentlemen? Okay, that's my turn. For y'all's information, remember, April 30th at 1 o'clock is the AASB meeting for board members. And I talked to Carol a while ago, and this facility is free that day, so we'll just meet here. So y'all write that down. At 1 o'clock, yeah, 1 to 3.
One time?
1 to 3. Okay, and I had a call last week, or maybe it's the week before, about a gym that's being left open. And I had a little concern about that. Supposedly the door's been left open, and they propped it open with a block or a rock or whatever. I think it was a rock laying there Sunday. And just happened so, I was attending a singing Sunday down on Lookout Mountain below Collinsville, and I just happened to just stop and see if the doors was locked. And lo and behold, the front doors was locked, and the back doors was wide open. So on account of liability to the board, I think that should be addressed. I think the principal at every school is responsible for that, and if they want to leave the doors unlocked, I think they should sign a release or sign something for the board that we won't be responsible. If anybody gets hurt, it's going to be their hide instead of ours. So that's all I had. So that information is for you, and you might address that with her.
Sir.
Okay, number 4, bids.
Okay, we've got CMP equipment bids. It says the DeKalb County Child Nutrition Program open bids, CMP 14-004 through CMP 14-020 on the following equipment. Bids were received from Bresco, Dixie Store Fixtures, and Hotel and Restaurant Supply. And see the attached bid for the results, and equipment bids total $298,140.50. I'd like to recommend that we accept and approve these attached bids.
Okay, gentlemen, I have a motion. Mr. Bobo moves. Mr. Matt, second. Any questions? All in favor? It's unanimous. Okay, leave of absence.
Okay, I'd like to recommend the following leaves of absence. You want to do this as a group? That's fine. Okay. Deanna Brown, EL teacher at Collinsville. Daphne Chandler, secondary language and arts and Spanish at 5. Leanne Timmons, elementary teacher, Plainview. Samantha Flaherty, elementary teacher, Crossville Elementary. I'd like to recommend those leaves of absence.
Okay, you heard the recommendation, to have a motion?
I got a motion.
Mr. Bobo? Have a second? Mr. Jeff? Any questions? All in favor? It's unanimous. Okay. Resignation, retirement, non-renewal.
You want to do this as a group too?
I'm leaving.
Okay. I'd like to make the following recommendation that we accept these retirements and resignations. Patricia Stewart, elementary teacher, Plainview. Brenda Powell, elementary teacher, 5. Audrey Stokes, assistant secretary, Valley Head. Greta Stiefel, elementary teacher, 5. Mona Smith, elementary teacher, 5. Keith Williams, secondary math, Plainview. Stuart Mitchell, secondary science, Plainview. Misty Hicks, junior varsity cheerleading coaching duties only at Crossville. Josh Burrell, volleyball coaching duties only at Collinsville. Ryan Burns, girls basketball coaching duties only at Geraldine. Heather Powell, volleyball coaching duties only at Plainview. Sherry Manchin, volleyball coaching duties only at 5. Laura Davis, high school counselor, Geraldine. Kathy Sexton, secondary special education, Geraldine. Kathy Fawcett, secondary science, 5. Ricky Gary, secondary science, Crossville Middle.
Okay, you heard the recommendation, to have a motion?
Make a motion.
Mark? Have a second?
Second.
Mr. Bobo? Any questions?
I want to say thanks. There's a lot of veteran teachers on here been with us for years. I want to thank those folks.
All in favor? Unanimous. Okay, on the job injury.
Okay, I'd like to recommend that we award on-the-job injury for Ms. Wanda West, store worker at 5.
Okay, here's the recommendation, to have a motion. Mark? Second. Bobo? Okay, any comments or questions? Do we have? Attachment 7, I just want to look at it. I'm 5, I'm getting there, I'm just slow, I'm old. Oh, wow. Well, it's got the 6s, here we go. Okay, any questions? All in favor? Unanimous. Okay.
I'd like to recommend the following transfer. Scott Shambles, assistant principal at Plainview, to supervisor at the central office.
Good, here's the recommendation, to have a motion. Okay, last call, you heard the recommendation, do I have a motion? Okay, this dies for lack of motion. Okay, placement.
Okay, all placements are pending a background review, meeting suitability criteria and negative pre-employment drug screening. I'd like to recommend Ms. Amy Varner for receptionist at central office.
Okay, here's the recommendation, to have a motion. Make it. Mark? Do I have a second? I will second that motion. It is not customary that the chairman makes a motion or a second, but in a small government group like this, it is perfectly legal. And the reason I want to second this, because if we don't have a motion and second, you can't discuss anything. So sometimes I think it's inappropriate to not have a motion and second, because you might know something that I don't know, or I might know something that you don't know. If you don't have a motion and second, we can't share none of that with one another. So
I wish we could change it.
We could do it first.
Discuss, but I know.
Well, there's not anything wrong with making a motion and second and discussing it. Then if you made the motion, that don't necessarily mean you have to vote yes on it. So I'm going to second that, so if anybody'd like to say anything.
I do.
Well, I want to say something, then you can say it. I don't know this lady. I know she worked a few years under the Warren administration, and if she's good enough then, I don't know why she's not good enough now.
Had a few calls on this lady, or one that was posted that we discussed in this meeting that we wasn't going to replace that position, and we also discussed some other agency was going to get to fill in. I don't remember, some older ladies used to fill in.
I got a question for you now. Are you talking about in a board meeting or the meeting y'all had?
Yeah, I'm just saying, I got a call, so I was going to ask
Okay.
Mr. Taylor if Brian.
We listened to that tape and nothing was mentioned. I didn't remember it. I got a call. I didn't remember it. But I wasn't going to say that it didn't happen because sometimes I forget.
I got a call too, but I didn't remember that either.
But the tape was listened to. There was nothing said about another agency and nothing said about anything that I could get that would say that we shouldn't have a reception at the central office. I didn't hear anything, but, and the tape is still available. If you would like to go listen to it, I would admonish you to go listen to it.
Well, too, Ms. Phillips, we transferred it, that was a totally federally funded spot that she got. So
Yes.
we're not creating a new position. We're just filling-
Positions, local employee.
Well, what we're doing, we're filling a position that was already there. It's not like we're creating a new position. Is that correct?
That's right. Okay, I've had my 2 cents worth. Mark, you've got to talk. Anybody else got a comment or question?
How many people put in for the job?
27.
I mean,
27.
How many was interviewed?
10. The first time, a year ago, when we posted this, there was 89 applicants, and I interviewed 58.
I have had a couple of people on different positions that we've had, especially in the central office, who have told me they did not get an interview. And people that I thought at least were qualified to at least get an interview. And so
Yes, sir.
that's the reason I mentioned that.
Any other? Okay, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of this recommendation? Raise your hand. Let the record show that Mr. Mark and myself votes yes. All opposed? Let the record show that Matt and Jeff votes no, and Mr. Bobo abstains.
right.
Mr. Bobo abstains. So, I guess it don't pass because we needed one more. So,
Get somebody to come answer the phone next.
if you need to call the board office, don't call me, I tried. Okay, item 10.
Okay, this is Social Studies Textbook Committee recommendations. That's item 10A. We'll take that through copies of that. It's a recommendation of the adoption of the social studies state-approved core and supplementary materials and those that have not been rejected. K-5 committee recommended keeping the present K-3 materials with the option to purchase studies weekly as supplemental material on an individual school basis. K-5 recommended 4th grade, Our Beautiful Home by Claremont Press as money is available. K-5 recommends 5th grade Houghton Mifflin Harcourt prehistory to reconstruction with a free option of buying 3 to get 3 books, to get a book free. The 6th grade committee, 6th through 12th grade, made the following recommendations: to adopt the entire state-approved social studies core and supplemental materials, including those that have not been rejected. Adopt Houghton Mifflin Harcourt for grades 6 through 12 for social studies, including government, economics, psychology, and sociology. Recommends the free option to buy 3, get 2 books free. Note that all the recommendations listed above are unanimous by the committees with no opposing votes. I'd like to make the recommendation that we accept this, the committee's recommendation to the board.
Okay, you hear the recommendation, have a motion? Okay, Mark. Second. Mr. Bobo, any comments or questions? All in favor? Unanimous. Okay.
Okay, the calendar recommendation, we put together a calendar committee. There's two options. Actually, there's three options that got voted on. And what we've got is option C. The vote totals, and of course, we had to do some paper ballots because we had some trouble getting emails up, so we tried to make sure we helped with the support votes. And the paper ballots were brought in and hand counted and added to our totals. Option A garnered 145 votes. Option B, 212 votes. And option C was 256 votes, which was a total of 613 votes. That's about half of our employees in the county.
So none of them got more than 50%.
No, sir. What I'd like to do is just open up discussion. Item C is the one that the committee, we sit down and looked over these things. If you look at them, I think one's probably more in the best interest of the kids, and that's probably the other, option B, or option A, I should say. Option C is the one, it is, it doesn't have as many holidays in it. I'll give you a few minutes if you want to look over that and ask a few questions. What I'd like for you guys to do is maybe pick one and let's recommend one of these here as your selection.
Are they?
Yes, sir.
Well, just
the committee created three.
No, but what I'm saying is, if you don't recommend one of the two, how do we go about, when we get finished? I mean, can we discuss here about the?
okay, we
you
can
make
we can
recommendations?
suspend the rules right now without a motion in the second. We can discuss this. The way I understand it, this option C is just about like what the school year we got right now.
The committee had one recommendation and
The committee, I was on the committee, Mr. Sharp was on the committee, and the committee came up with, they voted on the first recommendation, but they also came up with an alternate recommendation in case.
Since neither one got more than 50% of the vote, they come up with an alternate.
So the B is the one that gives us a little more break.
The alternate.
So,
The alternate gives a fall break for 3 days.
I think everybody
What
gets the
the-
point they need a break.
but the one that was voted, the recommended by our committee, doesn't have any weather days.
Right.
And I have a big problem with that, because what happened this year, and the fact that we didn't have to make up the days, probably not gonna happen.
Right, because the state didn't break.
I like the alternate better myself.
Okay, but
Yeah.
without taking a lot of time, Mark, which one do you like?
I like B, the alternate.
Mr. Bobo?
the majority of the people who voted for C. Is that correct?
No, majority didn't vote for.
It got more votes, but it didn't get a majority, if that's what you're asking.
But everybody had an opinion.
Yes.
You know, I always, majority felt like that, I'd say B. I mean,
Okay.
whatever the, C, whatever the majority voted for.
I like the alternate.
Okay. Mr. Superintendent, do you recommend this calendar right here, the option C, and we're gonna vote on it? And if it don't pass, we'll vote on that.
I got it. All right, I'm going to recommend that we accept option C.
Okay, you hear this?
Okay, that's the one that no.
Correct.
No break.
All right, you hear the recommendation, he is recommended option C. Do I have a motion to accept this recommendation?
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
That's what the majority of them.
Yeah,
The
all right.
majority voted for that.
Okay,
Whatever the majority does.
Mr. Bobo moves. Do I have a second? Okay, last call, do I have a second to the motion? Okay, this motion dies for lack of second. Now, do you have another recommendation?
I do, I have an alternate calendar. Item B, I'd like to recommend that we accept that calendar.
Okay, you have the recommendation. All right, we have a motion by Mr. Jeff and Mark second. Any comments or questions? All in favor? Let the record show Mr. Sharp, Mr. Richards, Mr. Williams, myself votes yes. Mr. Bobo, do you want to vote no or you want to abstain?
I sure do.
Okay, Mr. Bobo votes no. All right, item D.
Okay, this is the policy procedures recommendation. We've got to lay these on the table for 30 days. They'll be for you to look over for the next 30 days before we reconvene. And at that time, we'll decide as to recommend and accept these as our policy changes.
Okay, excuse me, I called D, but that's C.
Yes, right.
You done it in the right order, I was just wrong. Okay, so, y'all look at them between now and the next meeting.
I'd like to
get me all choked up here.
Yeah, I'd like to commend Cindy and Brian and Sheila. They have spent timeless hours working on the policy procedure changes. And it's spent a lot of time, been a lot of reading over things, and it's been, from what I can understand and see, it's been a great environment to try to fix and update our book and make it look professional. So I want to thank them for their time spent on this. And anybody else that spent time, I don't want to overlook somebody.
Yeah, and pretty well cleaned everything up.
We are totally putting it into a new format. It's much easier to view. We're combining all the separate manuals. Once we get that work done, and there's some other cleanup objects that are not in this. This was the main things that the committee voted on. But once we get all those items cleaned up and we've got the new format, we're going to bring it and let the superintendent present it also and let it lay on the table for 30 days as a final document so that everybody knows where to go to find out whatever they need to know.
It needed a lot of cleanup.
A lot.
All right.
In there back when you was teaching.
Okay, now item D, Mr. Superintendent.
I'd like to recommend that we approve IDER High School to be able to finance a lawnmower. Is it over the past 2 years, they've spent about $9,000 getting their yard mowed, and they could have bought a mower for less than that. So they need approval from us to go ahead and do the finance on the mower. And of course, that'll come off the state bid list as well.
Make that motion.
Mr. Bobo, thank you. Do I have a second? Mr. Jeff? And we want to make this clear, the board is not paying for this lawnmower, it's allowing them to do it themselves. So, you know, we don't want somebody coming down here next month saying, we want y'all to buy this lawnmower, because we're not buying no lawnmower.
Make sure you wear your hat when you mow it there.
That's right. Okay, all in favor? Unanimous. Okay, DEA?
Thank you again. Usually I don't have a lot to bring, but I have a couple of questions and comments, if I may. The social studies adoption that we did, do you have any idea about the funding for that? Because from what I remember previously, we still need some language arts books from the previous adoption.
That would be a Mr. Gibson question. As far as where we're going to go and how much we're going to buy, I'd have to get with you, David, on that.
Okay. Will we go back and buy the language arts things first and then come to social
I would
studies?
think that would be the procedure, yes, sir.
Okay. I do appreciate the dialogue about the calendar. I do appreciate most of all that you allowed the employees to have a say. Whether they take a say or not, they've had the opportunity. You guys went above and beyond letting employees have a voice in that vote. The other thing, I appreciate the way we've handled the policy changes. That's been something that's required lots of time, and we do appreciate having a lot of dialogue and input. We're very thankful that you guys take time to recognize the students who do so much in our state and national levels. And I know that next month we're going to continue that, and thank you very much. My question is, I was sitting here listening tonight, and the young lady was talking about raising money to go to national convention, which we'll be asking for you guys to think about that before. It seems to me that many years ago that we, or the board at that time, made a motion to assist students who were going to a national competition to help them get there. And I just wonder, has anybody looked back at what that motion was, and is there funds available for that? Because I know there are several in DeKalb County on the Beta Club side who are going to nationals. We're all in need of money. And I know you can't pay everybody's way, but I almost think that there was some motion on the floor to assist them in the future.
I have just this past week spoke to Mr. Cooper, and those were junior betas.
Yes.
I think it was Henniger, Geraldine, and Plainview all are going to national conference, and I've not been approached about the senior level, but I agreed to give each club $1,500 to help them with the finances to be able to go on these trips.
Okay.
Okay. And as soon as I start getting senior requests and those trip forms and stuff, we'll look and see what we can do for the senior level.
Thank you
I
very
think over the
much.
years,
Yeah, 15.
and we did, 15, I think, has been.
Yes. Through the years, the clubs or the principals or somebody's got in touch with the superintendent, or it's been mentioned at a meeting, and the board would have a suggestion, or the superintendent, and the funding's always come through. Just make a quick note, the robotics team that came, put on that exhibition, we've given money for that trip too. They're going to California. We funded 50% of that trip.
Probably make a presence of giving everybody the same amount. I don't have no problem with it.
I do appreciate that. We have teachers in the county who go far beyond what is expected in their normal job to assist students. You know that, and we do appreciate what they do. And if I could, at this time, I'd like to defer to Sheila Corneliuson for just a moment.
I want to say thank you for being included with the calendar and policies. I appreciate that very much. And it was a very good group and a lot of discussion. Mr. Taylor, I would like to, at some point, set up a meeting with you, the discussions that they had about, the change in schedule,
Yes.
as well as the coaching, so that we can be on the same page, because right now, we see things a little differently. So I'd like to open a dialogue and talk to you about that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Espo?
Thank you for allowing us to speak to you. We appreciate everything you let us do on the policy and calendar, and we appreciate you letting our people vote. There were still several that didn't get around to it because they didn't get the word out, and we still appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, date for next meeting. Tell us when graduations and all that.
Graduations and all that last week. We have to, we're going, last year we met at 4 o'clock to be able to make graduations. Set dates.
Brian, tell us when some graduations are.
They're every night that fourth week.
Like the 26th through the 30th?
No, not that week, the week before.
Oh, the 19th, 23rd.
The 20th, the 22nd, and the 23rd of the week all have graduation set. So if we keep it on the Thursday on the 22nd, if you wanted to attend those, you will need to set it at an earlier time.
Make it full.
Graduation
Start at 6.
I can make it full, but it's extremely hard.
What if we just change the date and not get involved in graduation at all, because, let's just get all that.
Yeah, because, if you gonna go to graduation, you gonna have to change clothes before you go to graduation.
So we
You
can
want
set
back
out the
up
late
to the
graduation.
15th?
What, is that okay with you?
15th.
What about the 15th? Is that all right? And that would be completely out of the week of graduation.
Yeah. Let's get through
Okay, next meeting will be May 15th at 5 o'clock here. Okay, have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
All right, Jeff? And a second? Okay, Mr. Bobo, now we can discuss, because I got one other thing to say. 2 months ago, I think Matt did announcement, or we acted on it or at work session for the next month, which was last month. And somehow or another, it didn't happen. So Matt said, well, we'll just have it after today's meeting. So since it's been 2 months, everybody knows about it last month, we didn't have it, and he said we'll have it this month, so we're gonna have a little short work session. And you're welcome to stay. We're gonna talk about we're required to do a evaluation for superintendent, and we have never done that. We're kind of behind on that. To select a form to do that with, we're going to talk about that. And when we adjourn, if you'd like to go home, you're welcome to go home. If you want to stay and listen at us, we're going to talk among ourselves and up here. It's not going to be in the back room, but you're welcome to stay and listen if you want to. Okay, now let's vote on adjournment. All in favor? It's unanimous. Adjourned. Thank you for coming. We're going to have a water break.
Go ahead, man.
Well, sure, Matt.
All right, this is just kind of a hearing, but I mean, it's really not a hearing. It's just a work session between us, really the board members and then the superintendent. Back before the election of November, so it didn't have anything specific to do with Mr. Taylor. And I think it had been discussed in the previous administration about doing evaluation of the superintendent, and as Jeff and I got on board, talking to the Association of School Boards, they wondered why we hadn't been doing an evaluation. Even as an elected superintendent, it's the responsibility of the board to do an evaluation. So we looked at that with the superintendent's pay, and we put in the stipulation that based on evaluation, if you look at this pay and that kind of thing, that just as a general overall evaluation, it's a good idea. It's a responsibility the board has. Mr. Taylor may or may not like the way it'll go, but or the procedure, but I think it's a good, and I think it'll be something good for the future. And I'm hoping it'll be something that we'll continue to do long after all of us are no longer on the board. Let me just kind of go over broadly what we're talking about. And this came from Fort Pine and from several other systems, and so some elected superintendent, some appointed. The first area is relationship with the board, and what we'll have is 5 scores. You have a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Poor, unsatisfactory for 1, needs some improvement on 2, average satisfactory on 3, above average on 4, and demonstrates excellence on 5. And so the first area is relationship with the board, and let me just read some of these items. Number 1 is keeps the board informed on issues, needs, and operations of the school system. Number 2, offers professional advice to the board on items requiring board action with appropriate recommendations based on thorough study and analysis. Number 3, interprets and executes the intent of board policy. Number 4, seeks and accepts constructive criticism of his work. Number 5, supports board policy and actions to the public and staff. Number 6, has a harmonious working relationship with the board. Number 7, understands his role in administration of board policy, makes recommendations for employment or promotion for personnel in writing and supporting data. Number 8, accepts responsibility for his personnel recommendations. Number 9, accepts responsibility for maintaining a liaison between the board and personnel, working toward a high degree of understanding and respect between the staff and the board. Number 10, remains impartial toward the board, treating all board members alike. Number 11, bases opinion with regard to matters discussed by the board upon principle, and is willing to maintain that position without regard for its popularity until an official position has been reached, after which time he supports the decision of the board. So that's kind of some broad areas of or some specific areas in relationship to the board. Is there anything in that that we may want to take out, or anything we may want to add to that? And having some discussion on what we want to add or take away from those items, or is that sufficient?
I think they've got an issue with all of this, just to be honest with you. But in particular, looking at number 8, for sure, he accepts responsibility for his personnel recommendations. I made 2 recommendations tonight that nobody made a move on. So if you're going to handcuff me and then evaluate me on it, I do have an issue with that.
Well, that's saying that you take responsibility for it. I mean, that's your recommendation. That doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to approve those. I think what that would mean is if you recommend someone and they don't turn out to be the right person for the job, that you take responsibility for it. And that doesn't mean we won't look at it. What's Rich, y'all guys think about that?
Well, I will say something, it not have to do with just that. Several years ago, at AASB meeting, I talked to some board members from different areas, and they didn't, and that's where I got this idea of tying bonuses to a superintendent's salary if they accomplish these things. It had nothing to do with evaluation, you know, if they got along with the board or not. You know, the board is elected by districts, and some districts could do like District 5, elect 4 more people like me that nobody couldn't get along with. You understand what I'm talking about? And my idea for this was to have like 3 or 4 things that if it happened in a superintendent's tenure, they could gain a bonus. Like if the graduation rate improved, they'd get a little bonus for that. If the dropout rate got better, you know, we're keeping more students in school, they'd get a little bonus for that. And there was one other thing, and I forgot what it was. And Mary Ann and I talked about this for several years. And then it came down to, I really felt like that you 2 gentlemen was probably going to come on board, and I talked to y'all about it. I don't deny it. I still think it's a good idea. But then it seemed like my idea got turned into all this evaluation stuff, which actually, it don't make no difference to me if we do that or not. It'd probably be just as well with me if we didn't, because that wasn't my idea to start with. You know,
Just a second, can you give me a timeout?
yeah, now give me a little time to think.
Okay. According to state law, there can't be any bonuses given to the superintendent during his tenure. There has to be an agreement before I take office, and that agreement, and I'm subject to no teacher raises or anything during that 4-year tenure. So what I have, what I guess what I'm trying to say is you can't attach any bonuses to this valuation. It's not going to happen. It's unlawful. So.
That's not what our attorney told us.
Well, I've looked at, me and Brian's been looking at state law.
It has to be approved before the superintendent takes office.
Right.
And if it's not, then you have to wait till the next term before you can do that.
Okay, so what
It was approved to do an evaluation of some kind, to be determined later, that would give up to 5% increase.
Okay.
And that's, we did that.
Did that before office?
Yes. It had to be done before office.
And it was in November, right?
Yeah, it was before he took office in January.
Well, it was November because of correct. I don't think we.
Or it could have been.
November, December, because we talked about it, we sent the wording to the attorney, he looked at it, sent it back.
I'm not going to disagree with what Ms. Sheila said, because I'm not sure. I want to just read you word for word from section 16.9-12 that says, In counties where superintendents of education are elected by a direct vote of the qualified electors, the salary for the office must be fixed prior to the beginning of the term of office.
What do you mean by fixed?
I don't,
Yes.
I,
It has to be,
It has not
it has
been-
to be set. It doesn't mean a fixed amount. It
that's
has
just
to
what
be
it's,
fixed.
I just read it as is.
See, so now before, it was 40% above the highest paid employee. So that's not fixed. If the employee gets raised, the superintendent automatically got a raise within the term. So that's not fixed.
I was just reading you word for word what it said from that.
Well, I don't know, now Anthony, when it was like that, was it 1.4?
40%.
1.4.
1.4. Okay, at that time, did the salary change during the year if, say, the state gave a 2% raise, so the salary,
Yes.
well, I guess we'll just be breaking law all this year.
Well, but
No,
now you
no,
back
because
up.
that's what you voted on.
Oh,
Whatever it is that you decide has to remain fixed until the next time somebody comes in.
Right, that's why Mr. Sharp, which I thought was a good question, is the definition of fixed. Fixed may not mean a certain amount, it may be a fixed method. And the method was set before that superintendent came in office, that it would always be 1.4. And I'm not saying that's right, but I'm saying that's what you could, that's one option too. I don't think we really broke a law, if you want, I'm not J.R. Brooks, but I think it was fixed.
We sent it to Mr. Brooks, and he got the wording, and he approved that, so.
Right.
I can get it for you.
But that's where it evolved into this evaluation, because the Association of School Board, after we had those initial contacts, when we talked to the Association of School Boards, they said it's the responsibility of the board to evaluate the superintendent whether or not he is elected or whether he is appointed, and they could believe that we had not been doing it already. Now, I don't know how many are not doing it or not doing it, but it's customary throughout the state to do that.
Of course, I know, I've dealt with them for a long time, and they have got some fantastic points, but their main focus is toward systems that hires a superintendent. I mean, that's 90% of their thought process. So even though they said elected, they might not even know they said that.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
You are listening. Point well taken. Let's move to the next.
All right.
Here it is. The next is community relationship. Basically goes on the same thing. And gains respect and support the community and the country. And this was all done, Mr. Taylor, this was, we put this together based on 4 points. It's not a personal thing at all, and it's something that I felt was important before the November election. So it's not a personal thing. But let's go through it. Number 2, develop skilled relationship with members of the news media. Number 3, participates actively in community events. Number 4, works effectively with public and private agencies. Those items. Number C is staff and personnel relationships. 1, develop good staff morale and loyalty to the school system. Number 2, treats all personnel fairly without favoritism or discrimination while insisting on performance of duties. Number 3, delegates authority to staff members appropriate to the position each holds. Number 4, recruits and assigns the best available personnel in terms of their competencies. Number 5, secures participation of appropriate staff members in groups in planning procedures and policy interpretation. Number 6, evaluates performance of staff members, giving commendation of good work as well as constructive suggestions for improvement. Number 7, takes an active role in developing the salary schedule for all personnel and recommendations to the board to levels which, within budgetary limitations, will best serve the interest of the school system. Number 8, meets and confers with the leaders of the Teachers and Support Staff Association and represents to the best of his ability and understanding the interest and will of the board. Those are those. Are there any questions about any of those? D, educational leadership. Understand and keep informed regarding all aspects of the instructional program. 2, implements the school system's philosophy of education. Number 3, organizes a planned program of staff evaluation and improvement. Number 4, provides democratic procedures and curriculum work, utilizing the abilities and talents of the professional staff and lay people of the community. Number 5, inspires others to higher professional standards. It's educational leadership. Business and finance. Keeps informed on needs of school program plan, facilities, equipment, supplies. Number 2, supervises operations, insisting on competent and efficient performance. Number 3, determines that funds are spent wisely and that adequate control and accounting are maintained. Number 4, evaluates financial needs and makes recommendations for appropriating budgeting funds. F, this is the last page, personal qualities. Number 1, defends principle and conviction in the face of pressure and partisan influence. Number 2, maintains high standards of ethics, honesty, and integrity in all personal and professional matters. Number 3, earns respect and standing among his professional colleagues. Number 4, demonstrates his ability to work well with individuals and groups. Number 5, exercises good judgment and democratic process in arriving at decisions. Number 6, maintains poise and emotional stability in the full range of his professional activities. Number 7, is suitably attired and well-groomed. Number 8, uses language effectively in dealing with staff members, the board, and the public. Number 9, writes clearly and concisely. Number 10, speaks well in front of large and small groups, expressing his ideas in a logical and forthright manner. And number 11, maintains his professional development by reading coursework, conference attendance, working on professional committees, visiting districts, and meeting with those superintendents. And then there's an area for comments, date, and signature. And one reason I think that it's important to do this is the superintendent board relationship is different than it is, say, with the mayor and council, or with the commission president and commission or other bodies. Whereas in for instance, the Waynesville Council, for instance, the mayor didn't recommend to have this agreement with the board. It was the council that made that decision. It didn't have to be a recommendation of the mayor. The commissioners, they can outvote the mayor on the commission president. The only thing the board can do is say yes or no to what the superintendent recommends. So it's a different relationship. We couldn't we can't do anything without a recommendation of the superintendent. And so it's a different relationship there. And like I said, in most systems you do have them appointed, so it's a little different than having them elected. But this is not meant to be a personal deal. I'm hoping that this will be constructive and that it will be something that we can continue on. And I think that it's important for anybody in any professional position to be evaluated, and to look at it that way. I know the principals are evaluated, I'm sure.
Is there a
the
tool
teachers.
for board members?
What?
Is there a tool for board members as well?
We don't have any authority.
I'm just asking if there's a tool available. Just talking about professionals, everybody should be open to evaluation.
Well, certainly. I'd be very open to anything like that. I will stand evaluated at any time. In any case, this is what we've got. This is kind of what I would like for us to look at. And as we pass our policy back before Mr. Taylor took office in November, December, whenever we passed it, we said we would do this 18 months after he took office. So that would be June of this year. And so what this would be is just an effort to kind of give him a heads up of what we expect.
So you're going to evaluate me from the time that you approve this until the time the 18 months is up, or you're going to backdate this?
Oh yeah, it'll be the whole 18 months. We're going to look at the full 18. That's the reason we didn't do it.
Do you think that's fair to judge me on things that I didn't know I was going to be evaluated on? I mean, I'm just talking fair. If you're going to sit here and pick out one of these, I mean, you're going to ask a kid to go into class, and we're going to give them an evaluation on spelling when you didn't tell them up front you were going to evaluate their spelling.
Well, I would ask you to tell us which ones of these you do not want to be evaluated on.
I'm just asking if you're going to give me this stuff now and want me to look over it, and you're having these expectations. You're giving me the expectations now, but then you're going to look back at what I've been doing and judge me on those things when I didn't know what I was expected by this evaluation.
Well, what I'm hoping is that by this time next year, that you will know what has been expected. You've known we're going to do an evaluation, because we've talked about that. We've not talked about an exact. I gave a copy of this just a couple of months ago.
I've been looking at all three of those that you had.
So again, this is not personal. Don't take it personally. You know, it's meant as a constructive way of making our school system a better system. You know, you've got, a substantial amount of your time left. And so if this evaluation is not very good, the next one might be, hopefully be better.
All right, I'll tell you what I'd like to do. I know that, in that, I guess it was in November, this was voted to do this. And then you sent us the three different ones. I suppose you took those and kind of like pulled from each one and come up with this. And of course, we can talk about this the rest of the night, but we can't do any official thing till we're in the board meeting. Since this is the final draft that you have came up with, I need to, and I know you've read every one of them to us tonight, but I need to sit down and read these, and I need to do a little thinking about it. There might be some in here that I would want in there, but that don't mean they won't be in there. I mean, when it comes down to the final thing.
Well, that's the reason we're doing this tonight.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted to do last meeting.
And we forgot to do that. Or I did.
You left. I do want y'all to just look at it, and there's things we want to add, things we want to subtract. And this is, like I said, it's a board decision tonight.
Mr. Sharp, can I ask a question? I was trying to make a note, and I've got 5 of the 6 topics you were talking about, but I was just curious.
I'll send y'all a copy of that if you want to see it.
Like staff and personnel relationships, educational leadership, is this something that the board fills out, or is this something that you would, how would you understand the
Well, that
relationship?
was one thing I hadn't got to that yet. I was going to ask the board if they wanted to. Jeff and I had talked a little bit about possibly sending that section to employees to get their perspective. It's a part of that, part of this thing.
I think that's right. This was something for the board to do.
Right.
It's not something for everybody in the community to do. That's my feeling.
I know we let them vote, we let the employees vote on everything else, so.
Well, that's a courtesy most of the time. And, since you brought that up, I didn't bring it up in the meeting, but for the past 4 or 5 years, we've had this awful chaos with the calendar thing, and personally, I'm about ready to try something different. I mean, I hate controversy, and it gets sent out, and it's not like somebody else thought it was, and then this happens and that happens, and actually, it is his job and our job to do the calendar. Now, whether y'all like it or whether you don't like it,
You just have to let it lie on the table for 30 days so that we get to have input in it.
that's right. But just because you got input in it, that don't mean we have to change
You're
it, but
right.
we have to listen to what you got to say.
Right, you are correct.
But, I mean, these two ain't been in on it that long, but them other two, and me, for years, it's just been the biggest chaos that Is that right?
What gets me is, you'd think we'd have 100% participation in voting in this.
That's right.
And there's only, what was it?
And it,
600.
Mark, it ought to be 100% of forethought put toward the kids, not what day we gonna start and what day we gonna get
Well, we
out.
certainly, we don't ask, we don't let the parents vote on it. We let all the employees vote, but has anybody thought maybe the parents might
Well,
have a vote?
how much does it cost to have a general election for all? I
Well,
mean,
maybe.
it's just too much chaos.
150,000 probably.
I mean, each one of us was elected from a district, and the majority of the folks in that district put a little bit of faith in us for something, I don't know for what,
Sure.
all the time. So, why can we not do that? And then if they don't like it, we're all big enough to take the flag, or I am, there's a golf people out there that don't like me, but I wish they did, but if they don't, if it's gonna have to get them to like me, if I have to do something which I think's wrong, they can just forget.
Well, sometimes too, the saying the majority rules, but sometimes the one that gets the most votes may not really be the best one.
You're right.
Just like the person with the most time in, that don't mean they're the best person for the job on some things, but where it is where I work, it's a little different. I forget that sometimes.
And along with this, I know one thing that we need to discuss too is on the principals, on Mr., we talked about with the elementary principal Crossville, fixing that contract. He's a 11-month contract. And last summer, what did we do? We extended 1 month to that. We've not changed that. We said we were going to come up with a system for all the principals to look at that. You got some principals with smaller schools, some with larger schools, and we don't make any difference in that. And once we get down to figuring out how we're going to do the Crossville, I guess the elementary school out there, and we need to look at other schools that have huge numbers that we've not done anything differently on those. So.
On that issue, Matt, I worried about, I asked the janitor, about here a while back when they mowed, it took 4, they timed it, took 4.5 to 5 hours to mow that campus down there.
Yes, good.
I don't know what we're gonna do this summer. The way the decided it.
You want to contract labor and have to do it?
I don't think so.
I think the board member needs to get up there and
All I can tell you is an 11-month principal, I space my days out where I can come mow.
Well, I think that's what they do. You or something,
I had to come check the mail every so week. I only had so many days during the summer I could work. It was like 35 or so. And I had to work the first 10 after and the first 10 before. But during the summertime, I came and checked the mail and mowed the yard. I think they just may have to get creative with their scheduling coming in and out.
And I think that would be a recommendation you'd have to make on any changes to the principals.
Salary.
Are we back to the evaluation? Just a couple comments. The evaluation should be a win-win situation. It's never an opportunity for me or anybody that's involved in it to beat somebody else up. That never should happen. It's not the intent. Evaluation, as I say, it should be a win-win situation. It's an opportunity for me to talk about what I need. It's an opportunity for the superintendent to talk about what he needs from me, and it's an opportunity to exchange on all these items. Do we need evaluation to do it? No. It should be done, could be done on a regular basis, but typically in the real world, it doesn't happen. So that's part of the reason why we established these particular criteria, and we set a particular time in which we do it. And like I say, if any board members got the idea that this is a time where we get to tell the superintendent what we think or how we feel, that's not the purpose of it. It's an opportunity for us to dialogue both sides and understand what each side needs and what we want, where we want to go, and if it's done the proper way, it's a win-win situation. So that's the way I look at it.
And that's the way I look at it too. This should be looked at very professionally, and should be honest, but it should be very professional, and done in a way that we're trying to improve our school system. That's exactly what it should be done. That's my intent. That was my intent before the election, and that's my intent now.
May I say something since it's a work session?
I see that.
I have been involved when they've done evaluations. Mr. Williams, you were talking about dialogue. Most of the time in other systems, when they do the evaluation, they do fill it out and give information on it, but what's presented in the public is just the numbers. They don't discuss any of that. You know, it can go back and forth between the superintendent and the board. You can write information down, you know, for his benefit, or, you know, he can for your benefit. But generally, in the board meeting itself, that dialogue doesn't take place. Now, of course, you can decide for yourself what to do. But in the other systems I deal with, that's how they've handled it. I just thought you might want to know that.
How they're rated, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like what they're.
That's right.
What about elected? There's a lot of systems that don't even do it.
There are systems that don't do it, that with elected, and there's some systems that do. It just depends on the school system.
You know, I've thought about this for years. I'll go with another entirely different, instead of doing that, this is not gonna, you know,
He's still elected, so there's not much you're gonna do about it.
It's not working. I've thought about it, just going in and talking as each board member to a superintendent.
And that happens
Elected.
sometimes. That happens too.
Particularly.
Mhm.
Now, this is geared up, there's more pressure put on by the evaluation when they're elected, when they're
Appointed.
superintendent.
And most appointed
Mr.
superintendents
Sutter done that.
use
Yeah,
the
here.
evaluations to get more money. Most appointed superintendents use the evaluations to get more money.
That's true.
Fort Payne, you used Fort Payne's, and I sit there.
Similar to theirs.
I sit there every year when they do that. If he made a certain score, then he got a certain percentage of a raise. They have just changed that. Now they're only evaluating every 3 years instead of every year. So, you know, that's a thing that the board decided to do.
What we did before the election was for 18 months and then 12 months after that. That's the way we did it for this term, so.
Does the Fort Payne City fall under the law that he read though?
No,
It's different. They can give it.
Well, but no, it's still, it still it is a fixed till they, you know, change it again. It's a certain, you know, depending on if he makes from this to this, he gets this much, this score to this score, he gets this much. That is a fixed amount, depending on what the score he receives is. I think you can look at his salary
He makes it a lot.
and tell that he's gotten very good scores. Yeah.
we,
We're just talking about it now, and we have to vote on it at the next meeting. Do you have any formal vote? Or how do we
I don't
vote?
know. I mean, we voted, we've already
Voted
voted
to do it, yeah,
evaluation.
okay. All right, we just got arrested, we're gonna do it
We
this.
basically got to
This is
decide
this
what criteria.
Okay.
We gotta decide what tool we use,
Yeah, I got you.
correct?
Yes.
Okay. Well, since, none of us has anything to do between now and the next school board meeting, we can just plunder this over in our mind and decide.
I think that's a great idea. If you will send me your comments, if you think, as you think about them, then I will enter those into this database here, and we can talk about those at that time.
Seeing,
Do we need to have another work session after the next meeting, finalizing
I think
anything, or are we tired of it?
I think Cindy said that was a great idea.
Yeah. Pizza, do what?
She don't even know where this
David
is.
said he'd bring pizza.
No, you said you were bringing dinner.
Hey, you can always call
You won't
that
have
pizza's
another?
delivered.
Well, I don't know if we need, I mean, if we do something after the meeting, then we,
Can't vote.
You can recess your meeting, have your work session, and then go back into
let's
your
do that.
meeting.
That may be a good idea.
I'm sorry.
just hold on a minute, I'm looking. All right, the next board meeting is the 15th. That's on Thursday. How's Monday night for everybody? Terrible?
Terrible, can't do it.
Tuesday night?
What you got to do Thursday?
Huh?
What you got to do Thursday?
Well, I thought we'd just meet somewhere at Pizza Hut or something so we could have a little bit to eat, because I'm starving to death.
Okay. I'm all about it.
A few days before the meeting and.
Hey, wait a minute now. If we're gonna make somewhere neat, we're gonna make, y'all
That's
y'all
right.
know this. We're making it official.
That's the reason I'm talking
Making
about it
official.
now. Mark.
Okay, I know, but I wanna make sure that that's known to everybody.
Y'all owe us some dinner anyway, so that's all right.
I mean, do y'all want to do that? If you don't, you don't have to. I mean, I can
I eat
eat
every
every night.
night, so.
Well, I eat every night. Sometimes I eat twice a night.
So what do you say? What do you want
You
to do?
saying the 13th? Is that what you were saying?
Is that okay with y'all?
It's not a Monday yet.
No, it's a Tuesday. Mr. Bobo?
Monday, the what?
No, it's Tuesday,
The 13th.
May 13th on Tuesday. All right, what we gonna do?
Matt said okay with you?
I don't have my calendar with me, so.
You want to use mine?
Yours ain't going to. My phone died, so I'm sure that they'll, you
All right, where you gonna meet that date?
That's good.
Okay, we'll say the 13th unless something comes up with Matt, if he's gonna be in Hong Kong, so. And,
Well, I'll be in Montgomery, so sorry. This.
All right, Lord, right there.
oh, man.
I hate that.
Give me a chance of board meeting at the 13th.
That's okay, I can handle it.
We really knew you was going to 13th, that's what we did.
I know it.
What are we gonna do, now, meet somewhere to eat?
Yeah.
Okay, where you gonna meet? Make,
I'm,
6 o'clock?
that's good with me. So where y'all meet?
well, Cracker Barrel's pretty well got all around anything you want.
That's fine with me, we can get that right, we can have a round table.
Yeah. All y'all invited.
Are you buying?
No.
This is Dutch Street.
You got that, Luke? Where's you invited?
In the meantime, we'll send the comments to you if we have any to incorporate into.
Sounds good.
And Matt, when will you know? I mean, if you got to get your phone done something to check on your dates or?
I'm sure I can know fairly soon.
Don't change
Or
that.
will you call me then if you've got a
If I don't
conflict?
call you, you call me.
Okay. Well, your phone don't work, I can't.
It'll work after it's charged.
Oh, okay. All right, that is 13th at 6 at the bar.
Terry or Matt, whichever one of y'all decides and calls the other one, would y'all make sure if you change it, I know so that I can post it.
I'm
You
sure
gonna,
you would.
you gonna send something out, right?
I'll, we'll make sure.
Yeah, if it's gonna be changed, the days will be ample for a work session and everybody be notified.
Just let me know, I'll take it.
I like it when y'all all together.
I talked to Mr. Monroe, they are displaced. It was almost impossible to get portables in there because we had to write a safety plan. That was going to take at least 2 weeks. And then it was going to take probably another week and a half to 2 weeks to get the board to approve, the state board to approve the plan. And we did not have a storm shelter like we did at Plainview. So Mr. Butts seemed to think that it may be in question as to whether or not they were even going to approve it anyway with 8 portables moved down there. So knowing that there was probably 4 weeks bound up in that, and then probably another week of moving the portables and getting the power hooked up, it was going to lead to approximately 3 weeks of school left. And we were going to have thousands of dollars tied up into it. So I talked to Mr. Monroe. We talked about maybe buying dividers to divide up the gym, but he's got everybody in displaced positions and they've been taken care of. He had shared with me that they would be all right, but they needed some technology needs. And I had him to email that to Brian. And we have, I think, did we take care of most all that? Did y'all got it? They needed the internet in some places because coaches had went to the field house and just in some different places maybe where they needed internet and maybe needed some whiteboards and a laptop and those types of things. So I hope that I've met all their needs to be able to finish up school. So I think it'd probably be appropriate at this time probably to hire a structural engineer to come in and give us a complete report from the
Top, bottom.
yeah, from the foundation to the top of the roof and suggest to us what we want to do. So.
Yeah, 'cause we don't want to get delayed.
Right, if we're gonna do anything, if it's gonna take remodeling, we need to get started on it just as school's out. If it's gonna be something that we need to look into doing something different with more extensive work and construction, we'll have to look at our money and see, decide what we're gonna do with that. So, but I'll get with Ricky and have him to tell him we want a full report, you know, from the top to the bottom, what the evaluation of the facility is like. So, okay.
Keep the ball rolling.
Yeah.